Florida State and LSU kick off the season in just 136 days, and the Tigers are already worried about this matchup. In fact, they're even more worried about this matchup than they are the matchup with Alabama later in the year for them. And they have every reason to be so worried. We're going to talk about why LSU has every right to be worried more about FSU than Alabama in this upcoming year. And we're going to reveal something an LSU insider told us about the matchup with the Tigers and Seminoles later in the video. Yesterday on the Horns Up podcast, LSU insider Blake Ruffino said this.
I think that, look, I've told people this on my show religiously. I'm more worried about Florida State for LSU's sake than I am Alabama.
Did you catch that? He said he's more worried about FSU than Alabama this year. That's blasphemy in the college football world, isn't it? Well, not so fast.
But not so fast, my friends. Return to the glory years. Go Noles!
His statements got me thinking. Why would LSU be more worried about Florida State than Alabama this season? Well, I think there are three reasons why the Tigers should worry more about the Noles than the Tide. Side note, if you're going to be in Orlando for the LSU game, comment below. Let me know you're coming. We're doing a big tailgate. We'd love to see you there. Hit the comments. Let me know you're making your way to Orlando to Camping World Stadium as we watch the Noles beat the Tigers. All right, first of all, Florida State has a better quarterback than Alabama, and that's not close. We did an entire video on Tuesday about Jordan Travis, so we don't need to rehash all of it. I'll link it above if you haven't watched it just yet, if you haven't seen it. But reminder, Florida State's bringing back a guy that's got Heisman Trophy type odds this year, and Alabama lost a guy with those kind of odds last year. When you look at the seasons that Bryce Young and Jordan Travis had last year, they were actually pretty comparable. Bryce Young doing it with a pretty ridiculous amount of talent there at Alabama, and so maybe you even give the nod to Jordan Travis. Jordan certainly had a better year statistically, but we don't have to have the Jordan-Bryce conversation. We can just straight up have the Jordan's better than whoever Alabama starts. There's obviously rumors of Alabama tampering and trying to pull in a quarterback from down south there in Miami. If there's any truth to any of that, I think it's pretty safe to say that Alabama doesn't love their quarterback situation, and Florida State probably loves their quarterback situation as much as anyone else in the country, probably up there with UNC and USC. I think that what you are going to get out of Jordan Travis this year is going to be special. Mike Norvell calls him one of the most improved players on the roster, and I think LSU knows that as well and is nervous about it. Jordan is going to be most likely in New York City for the Heisman Trophy ceremony for that presentation at the end of the year, and I think that that is something that would concern an LSU fan if I was one. Pete Thamel last week also said that Jordan Travis is his QB3 in this class behind Caleb Williams and Drake May. It's pretty lofty company. That's pretty high expectations for next year's NFL draft. We'll see what happens between now and then, but there's a lot of excitement right now around Florida State's quarterback. If I'm an LSU fan, FSU's quarterback certainly worries me more than Alabama's does at this point in time. Number two, Florida State dominated LSU last year. And defensively, LSU couldn't get anything going. With 9:04 left in the game, LSU hadn't achieved 100 yards rushing or passing just yet. Down 2 touchdowns, the Seminoles went into a prevent defense, and their rock in the middle, Fabian Lovett, went down and was out for a large part of the year. And then, of course, 99 of LSU's final yardage total came on a fumble at the goal line when the Noles were very, very close to ending it by going up 2 scores with about a minute to go. Now, LSU gained those yards, and so they do count for the final totals. But before that last 9 minutes of game time, LSU had 174 total yards. Again, not 100 yards rushing or passing. They couldn't get anything going against that Florida State defense. Again, LSU did end up finishing well. They got those yards when FSU was in a prevent defense. But anyone who watched that game, whether an LSU fan or a neutral fan or a Florida State fan, could tell you that they really weren't close to the Noles. The Noles should have been able to put it away and probably should have been able to put it away multiple times. The 1-point differential at the end of the game was not indicative of how closely that game was played. I think LSU knows that, and I think LSU remembers that. And they know that their game with Florida State last year, though it ended up close and almost went to overtime, it really wasn't close at all. You know, it was a 1-point score, but the referees, by virtue of accidentally blowing an inadvertent whistle gave LSU an extra play, or else it would have been a 7-point game like we all thought it should have been. If we don't fumble a snap there on the goal line, it's a 14-point game. Number 3 is what I'm most excited about, but just before I tell you what an LSU insider told me and what I think the third reason why LSU is more worried about FSU than Bama this year, I do want to give a special 420 shout out to our friends over at Satividal and Gramco. It's 420. Not only is that a holiday for them, but also it is their second birthday. They were founded 2 years ago today by Nole alums. If you're celebrating 420 today, you need to run over to their websites, thegramco.com or satividal.com. The links are above and in the description. You can get 25% off of their products by using TJ25. Let me let you in on a little secret. Their 420 discount right now is only 20% off. So you get more off by using us, TJ25, there at checkout. They've got some really, really great new products. They've got the Gramco Delta 8 gummies that we've told you guys about a ton. The new Satividal CBD Recovery Cream, it's a muscle gel for all of your aches and pains, is absolutely phenomenal. Mine came in today, so I'm super, super excited about it. So whether you're into the Delta 8, whether they're trying to enhance some experiences, or you're just looking for something for those everyday aches and pains, Gramco and Satividal have you covered. They are FSU supporters. They're FSU alum, and they'll get you taken care of today. TJ25 at thegramco.com or satividal.com. So number 3, this is what the LSU insider told me. This is what we've talked about. The defensive line at Florida State this year is going to be on another level. We've raved and talked and expounded and blown this up too, so we won't spend all day on it. But Florida State's defensive line is going to be really, really good. The edge rushers that Florida State has right now, with Jared Verse being one of the best in the country, probably going to be a top 10 pick next year, and a guy who may be defensive end number 1 when the draft comes around next year, is ridiculous. Pat Payton backing him up and being ACC's Rookie of the Year last year, and a guy who had a phenomenal spring, is going to be something very special. Gilbert Edmond, who LSU fans and LSU's staff and roster are very familiar with, was a guy that LSU wanted desperately, but he chose Florida State. I really like the depth pieces that Florida State has out there on the edge as well. When you look at defensive tackles, I think Fabo and Farmer are going to be 2 of your best in the country, and then being able to put Ayo, Fisk, and Jackson behind them, it is really going to be something to behold looking at Florida State's defensive ends. I like the depth pieces too. I think that Briggs can line up on the inside, can line up on the outside. He's very versatile. We've got Boots, who's a young guy out there. I think Turner's done some nice things. Florida State's defensive line is going to be the best in the ACC and most likely going to be top 5 in the country when it comes to 2023. The LSU insider that I spoke with about this told me directly, I have no clue how we're going to block Florida State, and it's going to cause us a lot of problems next year. I understand that that's just one person's opinion, but that's somebody who is very plugged in with what's going on at LSU, and I think they know that Florida State's defensive line is going to be nasty, and it's going to set up the other defenders, the very deep secondary that Florida State has, and the very talented linebacking crew that Florida State has, to just wreak havoc on LSU all game. Again, they really couldn't get much going on us last year until about 10 minutes to go, and I don't think they're going to do much against Florida State's defense this year either in Orlando. Now listen, I know Alabama's great. This is not a shot at Alabama. If you're a pissed off Alabama fan who clicked on this because you thought I was taking a shot at your team, I apologize. That wasn't necessarily my intention, but I do think Alabama's going to be really good this year. They'll probably go 10-2 or better. But FSU has lofty expectations as well, and I think that FSU is going to be better than Alabama. I'd love to see them in a semifinal. We'll see if Alabama could maybe find their way to get past Georgia in the SEC or not, but I'd love to play Alabama this year because I truly do believe that quarterbacks make the difference, and I do think that Florida State's going to be the better team. But LSU can tell you and will tell you which team worries them more, and without a doubt, it's Florida State. Alabama has won 10 of the last 12 against LSU. And Brian Kelly's had a lot of success against the Noles as well. But I'm telling you, LSU fans know when it comes to Alabama, when it comes to Florida State this year, Florida State's the team that they want to see less. That's just the way it is. Those are the facts. We're going to keep providing coverage on this game and everything else surrounding Florida State football over the next 136 days leading up until kickoff. Make sure that you're locked in with the channel and let us know if you're coming to Orlando. Hit that comment button and tell us if you plan to be there. If you want to hear all of the insight that we dropped on the depth chart coming out of spring, who's there, who's missing, where guys rank, where they will be, you can do me a favor and click right here.